Okay, it's recording. So, Dad, will you tell me about Chinwangtao and the box of bones?
In the spring of 1947, I was serving at an outpost, actually as part of the rear guard. The Marines were, I was in the 1st Marine Division, and the Marines were leaving China. And I was asked to volunteer for this rear guard, and I volunteered. And one company of Marines went with one company of Marines from Tientsin up to Chinwangtao. And this was at a time when the communist 8th Rhode Island Army controlled most of the area around Chinwangtao, and the nationalists were starting to lose the war over there. So actually, we were on the front lines of the nationalist communist war. And from time to time, the communists would attack us at different places. Matter of fact, when I first got to Tientsin over a year before, I was there for a couple of days, and I was on guard duty in a tower on the Huangho River, and someone opened fire from the other side of the river and shot a light out. We had a searchlight that we'd comb the river with, and in the process I was wounded, and I didn't know it, and I was wounded in one of my arms, and this was just in the first few days, and there were ambushes all over North China in different places, and up in Peking, and this is just a general rule of attack. It's all documented in Marine documents. That they call it a semi-war over there, as far as the Marines were concerned. Well, up in Chinwangtao, we got there, and there was really very, very little to do. It was being stationed in Peking and in Tientsin. Tientsin was a very modern city with high rises and different with European developments and nice restaurants and everything else. And in Peking, it was very ruralish and not very well cared for. When I first got there, I was surprised to see camel caravans coming down the street. Practically no automobiles at all. And the gates to the city, we'd go out and patrol a place outside of the city, and the main gate going out, would have a pile of debris going up laterally, so you almost turned on a sharp angle. You could not drive straight through. You had to go on an angle to get through, so no one could drive a vehicle straight through without losing the front end of it. And of course, we had these big service vehicles, 4-wheel drive vehicles that could go over this. So actually the gates were almost sealed to the city. So that, but anyway, I was really surprised up in Chinwangtao. The camp was right on the ocean. There was as you went into the camp, there was a dune on one side. It was about a mile down from the port, and there was a huge field to one side, actually, and that had hundreds and hundreds of vehicles, apparently, that we were delivering to the Nationalist Army, and they hadn't taken them. And the LSTs and LCIs, other delivery vessels, would land right on the beach, and they'd take the vehicles up and put them in this. There were multi-million dollars worth of vehicles there, and I assumed we were there to protect these vehicles. The camp had maybe a dozen Quonset huts and a tent for a mess area, and had one masonry barracks, a standard service barracks that had been looked like it was a very old building. And this is the building that I was in with probably another 40 men or so. Well, things started to heat up, and missionaries started to come into the camp. 2 or 3 came into the camp, and they said there were 45 missionaries trapped down a Pedaho, which was a beach resort town about 15 miles south of us. So our colonel, Colonel E.M. Williams, took an LCI, Landing Craft Infantry, which is an over 100-foot vessel, landing vessel, and took it down to Chinwangtao, and the Chinese 8th Route Army, Communist Army, apparently stayed at the junction. It didn't go right down to Pedaho itself, and they rescued these people. And on the ship, a baby was born. When then they get back, we knew that the communists were very close. Well, one day I witnessed several communist soldiers came in. They didn't have any arms on them. They looked a little ragtag. They had the blue alpaca uniforms, the denim or whatever it is, and they asked us to surrender, which we sort of took very lightheartedly. Just it looked sort of funny. We had our helmets and our camouflage, and these guys coming in, and we said, yeah, they didn't look very dangerous to us. And they said that we have 250,000 men. I knew the communists when they attacked in large numbers. They didn't like they had previously attacked our ammo dump down at Tacuba, which was south of us, and they called for air support, and there were 8 Marines on the dump, and the 8 Marines, of course, were killed. And when the Corsairs got down there, they found 4,000 people carrying the munitions out of the dump. So when the Chinese 8th Army, when they dealt with things with thousands of people.
Wow.
In the meantime, an observation plane flew into Korea and landed, and said that one of our jobs in the Marines was to guard the rail line that ran between Chinwangtao.
We can unplug this so you can walk by and sit here, so you're comfortable.
No, I'm jealous.
Okay, sorry, Dad.
One of the jobs of the Marines was to protect the rail line that ran between Peking, Tientsin, Tacuba, and Chinwangtao, which would be an L, just an L. And the observation pilot, when he landed, said there were 40 miles of rails that had been taken up and buried. It would take thousands of people to do that. This is at the time. So we knew they were dealing with a lot of people. And for them to say they had 250,000, we knew we heard a figure of about 4 divisions, which wouldn't be anywhere around 250,000. Well, that very night, it was like a Christmas tree being lighted. There was like a coastal plain, and of course the Great Wall runs in about 15 miles there. And the mountains or the hills along there were all lit up like fireworks. They lit individual fires to show how many people that they had, which was a bit. In other words, we have a lot of people here, and you have 125 men, and you're goners. And we know when they come in thousands, and you're dead.
Yeah.
And so we started, from that point on, we started napping during the day, and at night we set up foxhole positions. I had a .30 caliber machine gun and a loader, a man that helped load. Well, at this time, the lieutenant came along and he said to me, we want to change the crossfire here. We put the crossfire set up. And he had my machine gun, move our machine gun and dig another hole. And this was on a beach just south of this barracks area. And when we moved and started digging, we dug up a box, and the box was full of bones, and we didn't think anything of it. We just covered it up, and it was strange, but we just didn't think anything of it at all. And we just did it. And
how big was the box?
It was the size of a locker box,
okay.
Just a wooden box.
Yeah.
But the beach itself, the camp itself, was set up on an open beach. And there'd be fishermen on the beach at all times, and there'd be people. It wasn't like a military base that had fences around it or anything like that. It was all open. Now the camp itself, as you came in the camp, the camp was approximately a mile down from the harbor. As you came into the camp, there was a a Chinese tea house called T.T. Wong's, and they would serve. This was the recreational place for the Marines in the camp, and there was actually nothing in the camp at all, and you couldn't go anywhere. And what there was is there was Quonset huts there that were put up after World War II, and then there was a mess tent, and then there was this one barracks building. And actually, the only building that was left from pre-World War was this same barracks building that we were in. So I never heard anything about. I didn't know anything about that there was anything such as the Peking Man or Peking Man Bones or anything like that, except for 20 or 25 years ago, I saw on TV a show in which they said the Peking Man Bones were brought down from Peking by 2 Marines. The Marines were captured in Chinwangtao, and that sort of said, gee whiz, you know, I had no idea that, you know. And then my son Paul gave me some books on the Peking Man, and I found out that from the books that the Peking Man, the bones came down and they were left in the same barracks that I was digging behind. It was the same identical barracks building. It was the only thing left from pre-World War II was this one barracks, and everything else was there.
Wow.
So to dig up a lock-up box size of bones, I'm saying the Japanese that took them saw them, and they just buried them. They didn't know what they had, and they just buried them, and they did the same thing. And we did is we dug them up, and we did the same thing. The Japanese reburied them again.
Yeah.
But they've been looking for them ever since, and I think they're still there if there isn't.
Wow.
And I always thought it was probably a holiday, but I never realized until I read the book that the bones ended up in this same barracks building that I was staying in.
Wow.
And we dug them up and digging in back of it on the beach. And this box was there, and you'd never even think of it. Yeah.
Amazing.
So
What happened with the battle? Besides that, you're there with your machine gun and your machine gun.
Oh, there was no. We left in a day or two. We abandoned the base.
So there was no attack.
There was no attack. We
left.
abandoned the base. The only thing was there were multi-millions of dollars worth of military equipment that had been delivered, so-called delivered to the nationalists. I didn't know what all the equipment was there. And we were destroying everything that wasn't usable.
Mm-hmm.
So a group of us got together and we were going to try to damage as much of this equipment as we could. We were stopped. And they said it belongs to the Nationalist Army. We had no right to, even though it was millions of dollars worth of equipment. We're about to fall to the Communist Army. We were giving it to the Communist Army. And that was probably one of the reasons we were getting out of there alive, is if we had destroyed it or attempted to destroy it, they would have overrun us.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason that,
You had any value?
we had any value, but we didn't. So we left. We left, we went back to Tientsin, and our old compound had been taken over by the military police. It was a Japanese housing project. And we gathered our things back there, and we were given the honor, because we were in the rear guard there, given the honor of bringing back the Marine colors, the 1st Marine Division colors from World War II. So, we went back, so we represented the division coming back. And the rest of the division was sent to Guam. So that's the story there.
Wow.
This thing is off.
It's actually not off. Is it off? No, it's still recording. No, I'll stop it.